And good evening and welcome to Health and Ed for the month of September, and a considerable audience today as well, and welcome to all of you. Committee, I need to get the minutes approved, and if I could have a motion to do that, I'd appreciate it.
So moved.
Mr. Cook, thank you. Mr. Soriano, a second, and any discussion, of course, and all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. We're off to a wonderful start. Ms. Garrett is with us for the Health Department, and we're going to kind of alter the agenda and come back to community care in just a minute. Ms. Garrett, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So tonight I have my monthly encounter report prepared for you guys. And as you could expect, for the months of July and August, we see increase in child health with the back-to-school physicals and immunizations. And everything else we seem to be doing right along normal, if not elevated a little bit in patient encounters.
Do you go to all the senior citizens and give flu shots?
Yes, I am gonna talk about flu. That's next. I just wanted to give you my report, but I will talk about flu. It's that time of year again, if you can believe it.
Hard to believe.
Any questions before she gets into her flu lecture?
Motion to approve the report.
Motion to approve, Commissioner Jordan, a second.
Second.
Mr. Turner, thank you both. All in favor, if there's no discussion, please say aye.
Aye.
Garrett, talk to us about
All
flu.
right, it is that time again, flu season, time for flu vaccination. The flu vaccination plan for the health department this year is going to be pretty much every day. We're going to make the appointment, no appointment needed, walk in Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays, or Fridays at the health departments, either one in Smyrna or Murfreesboro. And it's gonna be from 8 to 4 every day that they can come in and get that. So again, no appointment needed. Every day except Wednesdays, we're doing them walk-in, no appointment needed, and it will be from 8 to 4. The fee this year is $25, and that is slidable according to their family size and their income. So when they come in, they report to us the family size and their income, and we can decide at that point what fee they would pay. But the maximum anybody would pay would be $25. Of course, if they have TennCare or Medicare, then we can file that for them and help in that process. And Commissioner Cook had asked about the Senior Citizen Center, so we do that every year. We offer it at Smyrna, Laverne, and St. Clair. And this year, Smyrna and Laverne have set up something where they're gonna have a private provider coming in multiple times to their Senior Citizen Center. And that's perfectly fine with us, whatever works best for the community. And then St. Clair's has us coming October 17th. We'll do a mass clinic there. We usually do between 400 and 800 vaccinations on that day for the seniors. And that's October 17th. People who are interested can call St. Clair's to set up an appointment. If you're in Smyrna or Laverne, you can call those centers and they have multiple days set up that they're doing the vaccination. Vaccination, luckily, is readily available and available throughout the community at grocery stores and markets and everywhere. So I'm just trying to make it as open and free for as many people can come in and get it without an appointment or restrictions against
What
it.
about nursing homes? Do you go to those?
No, but we help them if they need any help, but they order those way in advance, and they have them all on stock, and their nursing staff give them to themselves and to their members. So that's a great question, because that's one of the high-risk areas. So they do recommend flu vaccination for 6-month-old and up. It's recommended for everyone, especially if you have heart disease, diabetes, those kinds of things, but it's really recommended for everyone between that age bracket, 6 months and up. And people say, well, what about babies who are less than 6 months? We try to make a vaccination blanket around them so that everybody who's involved with them, their teachers, their daycare workers, their family members, their grandparents are vaccinated, so that hopefully they don't bring back flu to the baby who is too young to get vaccinated.
The one at St. Clair is October 17th, and that is by appointment only.
Yes,
I think we
thank
need to
you.
stress that.
Yeah,
For
the
sure.
October 17th.
Pays 25 also.
Yes, yes, and at the St. Clair's 25 as well. Most of the people that come there will have Medicare, and we can help them file that for that will help.
Do
But
they have?
yes, the one at St. Clair, you have to call St. Clair. I have their number here. It's 848-2550. That's their number, and you can call and set an appointment for October 17th with them. Thank you.
Have they identified, I think last year you mentioned that there was a different strain of influenza or I don't remember if you said it was a more serious or a tougher one to immunize against. Have they identified this year if it's going to be a more prevalent flu season or the strain is going to be any different at all?
Nothing at this point. They do a lot of research. There's
Mhm.
a lot of departments, the CDC, one of them, but several people across the world that study this and decide what kind of strands need to go in the vaccine.
Mhm.
So there are 3 strands in this vaccine, one of which was the H1N1, which was also in last year's.
Right.
There's also a couple of other strands that they developed or decided would be good to put in there. So at this point, they have what's best out there.
So there's no concern right now of the busier flu season, I guess, than usual, or more
Right.
people
No, it
getting-
seems to be at this point. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
Because we start to see activity usually in October.
Okay.
That's why we want to start vaccinating as soon as we can. And then it will peak somewhere around January, so we'll know more then.
Okay.
But as it looks now, I don't see any concern for that
Okay.
from the research.
In 2 of the last 3 years, I think I got my flu shot at the health department, I think, and quick and painless.
That's right.
Didn't have to wait long,
Yes.
and I don't guess we're gonna have a drive-through yet. I noticed today, by the way, you may
They
have-
are doing those in some clinics.
O'Hare Airport in Chicago, where I don't think we're probably gonna get our shots there. But,
Right.
they are doing a drive-through for limo drivers and cab drivers.
Wow.
I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, I know Nashville.
These people don't often get, you know,
Yeah,
they seem to miss it, and they're there every day, and so I thought that was
Yes.
interesting.
that is.
Hmm.
Don't get the flu, that's the key.
That's,
And flu vaccination is still the #1 way to prevent flu. Even if you do get the flu, or it will be a milder version of the flu, and you'll recover quicker if you've had your flu vaccine on board. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but for the TV, for people who, just to remind them that it is the most important way you can prevent flu.
We got bus drivers and cab drivers here that might think about it.
Yes, yes, yes. And if there is anyone who has trouble getting into the clinic, if they'll just call us at the clinics, we'll be glad to go out to the car. We do that often.
get
Sometimes their
tickets
caregiver will come in and say, you know, this person can't come in, or we'd be glad to go to the car and do it for them. So we do that pretty regularly.
Any other questions or comments, Mr. Garrett?
Thank y'all. I appreciate it.
Mr. King of Community Care is with us this evening, and he is going to pass out his report, I believe. I hope not. I hope he doesn't pass out. He'll pass out his report.
He's gonna pass out and get Miss Garrett to stick around.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Community Care, Mr. King, welcome, and glad to have you with us this evening, and what do you have for us?
A couple of items I want to specifically point out. Our census continues to not be as strong as we'd like for it to be, but the total census is running pretty good. We're running around 127 out of 131 residents. Our Part A census is not running as high as we'd like for it to. Some of that I attribute to just hospitals changing the way they keep people, but also the new hospital that's been opened, while they haven't got very many residents or patients yet, they will be taking those for some period of time, short periods of time, and that'll impact it some. Just in reference to the shots, we do offer shots to our residents and employees at no charge to them. So we're well on the way to trying to reduce flu epidemic at the nursing home anyway. Some of you, I'm sure, are aware, we bought a vehicle several months ago that is it's a quasi-ambulance. It's not licensed as an ambulance, but it is built on the same frame. It has a gurney transportability. We're trying to get licensed or get contracted through the state so that we can do gurney transports on the TennCare fee schedule. Many of the residents that we have currently, they go to doctors and those kinds of things, and sometimes we get called 10 minutes early and said we can't come. And so we're trying to create a way that we've got an ability to make those needs better served for our residents, but also open it up to the community at large. It is also a wheelchair accessible vehicle for up to 2 wheelchairs, and I foresee that will be a good product that we can provide our community. Do want to make you aware, as you read in your minutes, that we do have employee living in the house again. That's a good thing from a security standpoint. While they're not a policeman, just having a presence. Somebody can't come around back, just stay there. Somebody's gonna start looking out the window shades and saying, what are you doing back here? We have a Medicaid rate letter that I received on the 20th. It's actually not a true rate letter, but the state is gonna be raising the Medicaid rates in nursing homes. We foresee that we'll probably get about a 3% increase, and we anticipate having that. That's not in the minutes. We got that since the meeting. I wanted to make you aware of that. We budgeted a 1% increase, so that's very conservative, but if we get a 3%, that'll be great. Our costs certainly are higher than that. The last thing I want to make you aware of is this is not, it's probably somewhat new, but nursing homes are considering, many have had nurse practitioners for several years, but the state passed a law last year that nursing homes can have a doctor on staff. And one of the goals of that is to try to minimize people going to the hospital. Federal government starting October 1 is going to start penalizing hospitals for readmissions. If they come out of the hospital and go to a nursing home and then bounce back within 30 days, the hospital's going to be penalized for that. And we foresee that eventually we're going to start finger pointing with each other, saying, well, you could have kept them and you should have kept them. And so one of the things that needed to be done is our competency level has to get stronger. And likely a doctor somewhere down the road is going to be pretty normal in a nursing home.
Federal government's also the one pushing the hospitals to get the people out, though, are they not?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And cutting rates 11% last year,
Yeah.
but it's squeezing at both ends. That's all I have.
Okay, you committee, you have a copy of the meeting of September 6th, and the nurse competency is practitioner is in the last paragraph or two there, if you notice. And that, I guess, is something that we need to certainly be aware of. I think Mr. King may have some plans for that perhaps next year at some point, I don't know, but he looks like a man that may have plans. And any comments or questions for Mr. King? I need a motion then to approve his report.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. A second?
Second.
Ms. Soriano, thank you. If there's no discussion, committee, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. King, anything else, sir? All right, thank you very much. I believe, I'm hoping that Ms. Nolan is doing a special report. Is that correct, status report?
That's correct.
Ms. Jolly's not with us tonight, but we have Ms. Nolan.
Thank you.
And Nolan, welcome. I know you're
Thank
here
you.
also to help us out a little bit on the.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here.
You miss very few.
Thank you for that sincerity.
Yeah. Somehow I'm
Yeah.
questioning that.
No, I'm serious. I
Okay.
don't get to see y'all.
No little sarcasm.
That wasn't.
Well,
Okay.
I guess we can look and see how much money we've spent on the two
Yes,
major projects we
yes.
got going on right now.
And, you know, Stewart's Creek keeps being built, and Eagleville Addition, we still have some purchase orders sitting out in that project, but there is $155,000 left, not obligated in that project.
Is there that much? Are there that many bills, that much in bills to
The difference,
pay?
you can kind of look between the two, there's, you know, the difference between the contracts that they've expended, so there's money left to spend to the architect, construction, a little bit of furniture. Biggest part is the construction. The difference in what we contracted and what we paid. As far as spending money out.
I wish I could speak to that, but I really can't. I was out of town when they had the open house. I know some of you went. But I did get the word that they had some finishing things that they had to do on some areas that we're not using right now, but I know I'm gonna tour it Friday. But I would imagine that figure is higher than 80% also now. I imagine they've done some
Are you talking
increased
about the front
things
part?
in Eagleville.
Well, that's the percentage spent,
Mm.
totally what was spent as of the 19th.
Of course, it takes several months for all the POs and all to come through, and also,
Yes.
we don't need to get too big a hurry to transfer this money out, I would think.
Right. I'm sure the judge will let you know. Where it is, like, when it's clear to go to another project.
Any other comments from Ms. Nolan, who is subbing, getting sub-paid? Maybe not.
I know when I was out at Eagleville, between the school and the gym, there is a walkway that's not covered, and I think there's another one somewhere. And I've talked to the superintendent about it, and they're gonna see what they can do about it. Sorry, Jeff.
If there's no further comment, we need a motion to approve the report.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Phillips. A second?
Second.
Commissioner Allen, thank you. Any further comment or discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Nolan. You did a wonderful job of
Thank
setting.
you.
Mr. Sandy. Sandy has a long list of amendments tonight.
I like these meetings.
Has one, actually, I believe. And I believe, committee, I believe you have a copy of his amendment. Ms. Sandy, welcome, and take it away, sir.
All right, we are bringing forward our capital projects fund budget amendment, that's the piece that's funded by, about 4.2% on the property tax now. In this fund, all of the purchase orders are liquidated at the end of the fiscal year, and then we have to present an amendment to rebudget these closed out purchase orders, incomplete projects at June 30. So that money rolls into fund balance, then we take it out so we can finish the projects. And this amendment is for $55,196, which I believe is the lowest one we've had. And that will complete plumbing and the other associated work for the campus school renovation phase 2. We are winding down on that at long last. And our recommended motion is to amend $55,196 from account 34,685 committed for capital projects to account 91,300-335 maintenance and repair services buildings. As presented.
Questions for Mr. Sandy? Need a motion to approve, please.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Allen, thank you. A second?
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Phillips, I think, won that race by about 1 seconds. Do we need to call a roll on this one, right? You're surprised I remembered, aren't you? Let me ask you what.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Cook?
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Serena?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Your report.
You can't have it.
Thank you.
That's fine. I'd love for Becky to.
I have a question for Mr. Sandy. I know when we looked at all the upcoming projects, the forecasting that you've done for us before,
Mhm.
and I've been on a recycle kick as of late, and so I think I have recycled away some of those handouts, and so I'm asking you to pull this off the top of your head. But I know we've got things that we've continued to postpone, like the new entrance at David Urey, the improvements to the stadiums at Smyrna and Laverne.
Right.
Do you have any
Mhm.
idea what sort of number we're talking about on just the improvements to our existing schools
No,
that
I
we've
don't.
postponed?
I haven't looked at that probably since before year end.
Okay.
So, yeah, kind of like you, but, we did, you know, I don't even remember if we were able to put one of those renovations in this year's capital projects budget, the one we just voted the amendment on, because we had enough roofing projects to basically use up the money, which was the original intent.
Right.
So we're not borrowing for roofing and paving
If you don't mind, would you make yourself a note
Oh,
to send me that
certainly.
tomorrow? Just send me the.
I'll do my best, yes.
Great. Yeah, and if you forget, I'll call you.
Okay.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Mr. Sandy.
and that is last year's version. This
Of the
board
forecasting,
hasn't-
right, that's right.
hasn't seen, voted anything on it, so yeah, I'd be glad to.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sandy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Committee, if you look at number 6 there on your agenda, and Mr. Bales, welcome, you're back, just exactly like you said you would be, to discuss the MTSU Science Building and the $1 million funding request. Always nice to see you, appreciate you coming today. The committee has had this material for about 6 weeks now, and of course we I assume, I know this committee and they have studied it, I can assure you. Committee, just a word, and I don't know if Mr. Bales and I talked, but I don't think we mentioned this, but Dr. McPhee called yesterday, and that's Dr. McPhee, and did a great job of lobbying me, by the way, but it really wasn't necessary, but I enjoyed talking to him very much, and on a serious note, he would be here. I believe he's in East Tennessee.
It's on a student recruiting trip tonight.
And he sends his best, and he said to pass along to you all that he appreciated your consideration. So I've done that. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be back in front of the committee.
Well, I assume except for there being some progress on the foundation of the building, not much has changed with your request. We have in front of us the committee's now very well aware of, a request for $1 million from Rutherford County government, and we discussed it last time some, and we're opening up for discussion tonight and a possible decision. That'd be up to y'all. So if you have any questions from Bales, this would be a good time, I think, or just general comments to make about it. This would be the time to do it. Did we do everything last time?
Well, I will put forth that I have received some pushback from some of my constituents that are concerned about $1 million with projects that we're holding on to, borrowing money to build schools, stuff. And that being said, I'm an MTSU alumni. I know MTSU does great things for this community and is a major driving force in the economics of the whole region. But I was surprised about the amount of pushback I've gotten, whether in phone calls, people on the street, emails, but it has been some, I'll just say I was surprised about the pushback, because I was thinking a month ago, hey, I think I can support this hands down, no problem, but I do represent my constituents. And
Well, and that's actually the same feedback that I'm getting, which is part of the reason why I asked Mr. Sandvig if he could put a number with that, of the number of projects that are already on our own plate that we need to take care of first, that we continue to postpone because we don't want to do a tax increase. And so, as much as I think of MTSU and, educated, so many people in this community, done so much for our region, we got to take care of our own, so.
Committee, any other comments? I made some, of course, last time, and I also got a couple of comments, not much, but a couple. One of them particularly well thought out, not really necessarily in favor of this. Or I tell you, I've really done quite a bit of thinking about this, because it's tough, and it's tough mainly for what Ms. Allen just said. I mean, we've got some things that we just really feel like we've got to do. We may not all agree on what those things are, but there's some pressure there for us, and it extends beyond schools, of course. With that said, I've kind of just decided that I'm in favor of this in some capacity. Would I vote for $1 million in the next budget? No, I would not. We're going to have to spread it out before I'm going to be happy. I think I'm just one now. We have waited on the state to do this for years, almost, well, at least a decade. And now that they have committed, and yes, I'd like them to pay for the whole thing. I really think they should pay for the whole thing. But they're asking us and the taxpayers of Rutherford County for some money, and I think I can support that. I also, there's a number of things that I'm not going to list, so breathe easy. There's a number of things that make this a very unique community in this state and even in the South. And MTSU has been, I think, a terrific citizen. And they have educated our workforce, where we have, according to the magazine that just came out, 25% of our workforce, 25% of our citizens are college graduates, which is a remarkable figure. And I want to support this if I can, and if the committee does not have anything else to say right now, I'd like to go to Ms. Nolan here, and let's look at our finances, and possibly, if we decide to do this in some way, where this money might come from and kind of where we stand. Ms. Nolan, if you would, please come on up if you want. Or
I've given y'all a piece of paper. I didn't put it on the little box there. But the theory I was working off of is if this was agreeable or possible to spread this out over 5 years. And so then you're looking at $200,000 a year, this year, and then 4 after that. So then with that in mind, okay, we really only have 2 pots of money for something like this. You can't take money out of the schools, K-12 money, and use that for this. So then we're only left with, what do we have in the general fund? You can't take it from the ambulance, you can't take it from solid waste. So we're left to the general fund. And then for the general fund, there's your 2 pots of money, is what money that we have from the development tax that we haven't assigned to anything, and our fund balance. So that's what you have before you. So you want to look at one that's headed up development tax, to just give you a history of where we are. Really, we began the year with $1.7 million in development tax funds for capital. We've estimated $500,000. Now, if we get more than that, that'll be great. But right now, we've estimated $500,000. Well, it's really $1 million. Half of it goes to this fund. The other half goes to debt service. You can see what we have done so far through August, what we've allocated. We've allocated the $500,000 that we were getting to the GIS flyover, the vehicles, the sheriff, and $100,000 for Motlow. This is our second and final installment for the agreement that we've done with them.
How much is the agreement? Do you know?
It was $200,000. We did $100 last year and $100 this year.
Okay.
Okay, we've just allocated $437,000 for the circuit court clerk out of here for the software and $55,000 for the rescue tank. So that brings our balance down to $1.2 million, and this request of $200 would bring us down to, a little more than $1 million. Okay? That's not where I'd recommend taking us down pretty low. Flipping to the other side, our unassigned fund balance. We begin the year with $14.6 million. This is after our general fund is unbalanced by $3.8 million. Our estimated revenues are below our appropriations by 3.8. So this is already, we're down to what is unassigned as we come in as 14, almost 14.7. You can see we have, from the beginning of the year, August and September, have allocated another $577,000 for these things that I've got listed. The MTSU request of $200,000 this year would bring us down to a little less than $14 million. Now, your guidance and our guidelines on the general fund is that we will maintain 15% in appropriations. So our appropriations with this request is $77.5 million. Our 15% goal is 11.6. So looking at the difference of our estimated ending unassigned of 14 compared to the 15.11, we would still meet our requirement is the end of the story here.
Of course, we're only 3 months
We're
into
3
a
months in.
12-month year, and the
We're
budget committee is looking at these same two
Mhm.
buckets every month.
Right. We're 3 months in, and we're $3.8 million out of balance in this year. Some of that will roll into next year. That deficit. So my end of the story is that if this is a commitment of the county, we could do the $200,000 this year, we meet all the requirements. It'll just have to roll into the budget process next year. By the end of May, June, we may say, well, development tax came in better, we might take the next $200 next year out of development tax and do it on a year by year.
But over the last 3 or 4 years, since our last tax increase, it's getting tougher and
Closer and
tougher
closer.
every year
Closer and closer.
to meet our 15% requirement, or our requirement, so.
The
It's getting really tight. As a budget
It is
committee
really tight.
member, I
This
know
budget
it's getting really
is
tight.
Now, what happens is that, definitely I'm estimating what the ending fund balance is gonna be. When we're struggling through, what's that tax increase gonna be? We haven't closed our books, and we don't close our books for 2 months past what I estimate. So, luckily, it's conservative. That gives you some flexibility during the next year of things that come up.
Then I
Mr.
was.
Mayor? I'm sorry, Ms. Cook.
Let me add just 1 or 2 comments to what she just said. When we passed our budget this year, we thought this ending fund balance was gonna be like 15.7% or something. It turned out to be something more than 18%, close to 19. So we developed some funds that we really need. This will hedge us against some future needs, of course. So things are better there. And on the development tax, we only budgeted $1 million. When we took in $2 million last year, which was a major increase over the previous year, which was $800-something thousand. So we don't know if we're gonna get more than $1 million, but it's a bit more optimistic than it's been before, for sure. In that, so far in the 8 months of this calendar year, our single-family permits are up almost 60% over the previous year. So it's clear that the construction industry is making somewhat of a recovery, and that would and should directly reflect in our development tax collection. So I think it's reasonable to think that we'll probably do a bit better than budget in that development tax. We don't know, though. So that's one of the primary reasons we need to spread this out, so that we can really have the ability and the flexibility to meet this commitment if we can. So I think all of you have already said and already have recognized what a tremendous resource this has been over so many, many years. And one of the very reasons that have been successful, as successful as we have been, is MTSU, Motlow, our Technology Center. All of this has put us in a unique position to have qualified people available, ready to work, with the tools that attract people to come here and provide jobs. And I think the job creation and the ability for us to continue to attract jobs is really, really related to this. And I think it's important that we find a way to do what we can to support this. And yes, we'd like for the state to pay for all of this, but at least they have committed to paying for all of it except for $19 million out of a $100-something million project. If they don't raise the money through private contributions, which they're working on, through government support, the only place they got to go is back on the backs of our students. And they've already put, the state has made this happen. The student tuition has gone up more than anybody would have liked for it to go up the last few years. And and I think really and truly that's a little bit of something we should think here too about. I mean, as far as giving an opportunity for people to earn a higher degree is going to be more and more expensive and more difficult. So I mean, that's another reason I think we really should support this. I recommend, at least somehow, for us to try to see if we can find a way to make this happen. I think it's critical to the future of all of our citizens in Rutherford County, especially our young people that are looking to develop a career and have an opportunity to use those talents and abilities that they have.
I have a question. Does this commitment have to be in full at this point in time, or could we commit X number of dollars for this year and the commission look at it again next year? Because we don't know
I
what.
can answer that, we can look at it again.
I mean, we don't know what our numbers
That's
are gonna
right.
look like next year.
Every year.
Instead of us making $1 million commitment, we could say, we're gonna give you X number of dollars this year, and we'll look at it again next year.
Absolutely,
Because-
and we think
and
we're
I-
going to try our best to do that again next year,
You know,
but we
and-
may not can do
We're a
it.
couple of years away from an election,
Mhm.
different commission. I wonder how much we can commit that
We
commission
cannot.
to spending money, money in those years. Legally, I don't think we can do that anyway.
We cannot commit
And
to
so,
a succeeding commission, but we can make a good faith kind of statement that we're going to do this year, we're going to try to do it next year, and we'll just have to see how the revenue comes in if we can continue. I mean, when they take a commitment from anybody, individually or otherwise, they know full well it's the best effort
Best
process.
guess. It's best
And-
guess.
And they cannot hold you completely liable for that and foreclose on anything to get the profit, to get the.
Mr. Chairman, if I can make a comment or two.
Please do.
We certainly appreciate the taxpayers of Rutherford County, the concerns they raise. This is new for all of us. As we talked about last meeting, this was something the legislature put in this spring. It's unprecedented. They have never required the institutions to contribute money toward buildings that have been on state project lists. But as you indicated, it's indicative of what's happened with funding from the state for higher education. 30 years ago, 70% of the cost of public education for college universities was provided by the state. Today, that's about 38%. And it's doubtful that percentage is going to increase.
Did the $65 million building you just did the ribbon cutting on, how was that paid for?
That was paid by student fees. And again, on our campus and on most of the campuses, various types of buildings have different funding structures. The parking garages you see, those are 100% paid by the parking fees. They're supported that way. We can't allocate those funds toward anything else, so they go right into that facility. Student fees, the students in a referendum in 2006 approved a new fee so they could have that new student union. That the funds come from that. Academic buildings have traditionally been the purview of the state. They have provided the funds for those. The only exceptions have been when a donor or comes in and says, we have a specific interest that may fall outside of your normal funding, which is what happened in the case for Honors College. That was funded differently. But this is new for all of us. And it's been, I can tell you, my colleagues around the state, we're all having conversations, because when you look at our various communities and the impact the universities have, it varies widely. I was checking in response to a question that got asked last month. We have about 7,200 students from Rutherford County on campus. So roughly 30% of our student body is from Rutherford County. What's interesting is we have Rutherford County students going to every four-year school in Tennessee. So I think one of the questions, I think last time was, have we considered going to Davidson County? It gets to be a little bit of a question of give and take. Is Davidson County, is Tennessee State going to come ask Rutherford County to support their projects because Rutherford County students attend? We've made a decision so far, we're going to stay where the majority of our students come from. Feel like that, otherwise you're going to get into quid pro quo, swapping around all the counties, and I don't think that's probably wise for any county commission to look at. But it is an investment in tax dollars, as the mayor said, in jobs and in education. I think the two things that we see is our ability to enhance K-12 education by improving science, math, and technology ed, which I think everybody agrees is kind of the future for this country. And the second part, and I think the more important part for us, is our ability to train science grads. We have lost a lot of talented science students who come on campus and go, I'm sorry, but Riverdale High School's labs are better than yours. I'm going to go to...
Thank you.
They are. Frankly,
Yeah, they are. You're right.
And we've heard that. So I'm going to go to Auburn, or I'm going to go to UAB, or I want to study sciences. One thing we know, when a person comes to a college campus, you increase the likelihood they spend their life there and contribute to the economy there. So we're having a brain drain of quality Rutherford County students leaving that are in the sciences, and an inability to attract them. You may remember last year the Chamber tried to recruit a tire company's R&D lab. One of the things we recognized very quickly, we didn't have the resources to adequately support bringing that to Rutherford County. This would give us that resource. It would give us the ability to produce a college graduate in the sciences to work in those fields, which are going to be higher paying jobs, improve quality of life, and they're going to contribute to the tax base. So we understand fully that it's a concern. I'm a taxpayer in this county, I understand that, but I also see that on the backside there's a benefit long-term that has a huge upside potential for this community.
Has the city of Murfreesboro committed?
They're in the same review process.
So they're still having a dialogue?
They're in the same process you're in.
Do you know, Mr. Mayor, what the city of Murfreesboro gave Motlow and Smyrna?
This
Did
last
they-
time, nothing. Now, I don't know about the first go-round, I wasn't here enough to remember that. We gave money, this is the second go-round at Motlow. The first time, I think the county gave more than what we did even this time, I believe.
See, and for me, the difference between the Motlow and the MTSU request is that MTSU has years of graduates and sort of a legacy of alumni that they can draw on, those resources. Motlow just simply doesn't have that. You don't have that same pool of resources to draw from. So in my mind, that's part of the difference in the gift as well. I didn't make it any secret, and I continue to not make it any secret that I wasn't happy that the city of Murfreesboro, basically I feel like reneged on their donation because Motlow felt like it was secure until it wasn't. And when it came time to commit, they didn't. So I feel like I want to wait till we find out what Murfreesboro's going to do. Because they're going to reap the most immediate benefit, because those companies are going to locate here, those people are going to live here, those students are going to buy meals inside the city limits of Murfreesboro. I want to know what Murfreesboro's going to do.
Another thing, Hickory Hollow has closed, so Murfreesboro has increased on their taxes because people are coming here now. And because I live on the county line, and it's much cheaper for me to go to Davidson County because the taxes are cheaper. And so, I mean, that's the way that Laverne was handling things. But now, the Hickory Hollow has closed, they come in this way. We're getting more Coffee County people in here and other counties than that. And I would be willing to say for next year, maybe 100,000, and then the next year 100, and for 2 years, because we're paying Motlow 100, and I'm thinking, well, could we do that for 2 years instead of $1 million? And maybe it wouldn't drain us as bad, because we don't know what the future holds, and we might have to do away with all these contributions. So that's just
whatever economic benefit we've received from Motlow and MTSU, it's affecting this whole county. The sales tax revenues in Smyrna have increased at a
With
probably a
their-
higher
yeah,
percentage
mhm.
rate than even Murfreesboro. So it's been some, you can look at those numbers and you can see that the whole county has benefited by Hickory Hollow, whatever, I mean,
Mhm.
Cool Springs. We've,
Mhm.
it's reflected an improvement in all of the whole area.
Mhm.
Are
And
we
I know
asking-
the new shopping center in Smyrna has been a tremendous help.
Mhm.
And it come in at a time when it was
They're asking for an immediate
well needed,
donation.
and I hadn't turned it down.
One in this budget year? We're asking for this to start in current budget year or to start in next budget year?
I understood
Now.
this
Ne-
one, 200,
That was
well,
what
my proposal was 200 now, and then
Current budget year.
current.
And we did confirm, 5 years is not a problem. If the county wants to do it that way, we told the city the same thing. We recognize $1 million is a lot out of anybody's budget. And we've even set up all of our plans on about a 5 to 7 year kind of funding model, so we certainly understand that.
From what we was talking about a few minutes ago, I don't think we can commit to a
I
5-year
don't
thing
think we
under any
should.
circumstance, no matter what we want to do, because that gets into a next elected body. And all we can deal with is this year and probably next year. After that, there's another election goes on and stuff.
Well, we,
And I feel much better taking it a year at a time. I mean, I'd like to vote whenever I do vote, whether it be tonight or whenever, on whatever we're gonna do right now. And next year, our budget numbers could come in better, and we could maybe give more, maybe if it's worse, give less. And I know that doesn't help you on your long-term budget and your fundraising goals to say, well, I've got this much coming in over the length, because this is what, a 2-year construction project,
At least.
at least, and maybe a 2.5,
3
3-year.
2.5 years probably
Yeah,
more likely.
and stuff, so, you'd like to know exactly what you've got coming in. And the
But
state's
that's
gonna
al-
be,
but
the
also
state's
is-
gonna be asking you, what have you got coming in? Because you've got obligations to me,
And that's the good, but that is the good thing, because it is 2.5 years. It's not like we have to have all the money up front tonight,
Mhm.
from everybody, from all sources. We've got an ability to kind of work through this, and we've gone through this. We know what the economy did a couple of years ago. We understand the realities of that. So we fully anticipated that this was gonna be a multi-year process. Whether it's an obligation paid out over, or whether it's something we had to renew every year, we certainly understood that and recognized that.
This is something I've been trying to get our schools to do, is to teach more science. And just joking, I've been telling the school board we was gonna buy some barges and put them in the river and start teaching some of this. But we need it. We
No
need
doubt,
it.
No doubt. And in this building, there is 2 dedicated facility labs specifically for K through 12 science teachers. Not just students who study science, but there's 2 dedicated labs so that they will be able to get hands-on teaching in that regard. So we recognize the importance of that, and that's gonna be crucial.
This afternoon, when we were at the MTSU, provost came and talked to us, it was so impressed.
STEM education for us right now is probably one of our top 5 priorities of things we've got to do and do better over the next decade as we start looking forward where we are. We certainly appreciate the concern that the education community has for that.
well, I put on the agenda because I wasn't certain a possible decision. And that doesn't have to happen tonight. We can do anything that the committee wishes, but I would appreciate a motion. I'd like to go ahead and take a vote on something if the committee wishes to.
Let me make a comment or two. I've kind of bit my tongue here. I live in the shadow of the goalpost of MTSU. I've also gotten one email of someone that I have a tremendous amount of respect for, and his judgment is really sound, opposing this. But I've also got potentially 26,000 constituents that are in favor of this. And it's my feeling that all the years that I've been up here and the number of times that we, Planning Commission, has gone to MTSU asking for help in putting certain things together, and they've provided those services pretty much free of charge time and time and time again, just like the GPS service that the county started a number of years ago would not have gotten off the ground if it hadn't been for MTSU. And the way we're mapping and doing certain things today is all a direct cause of that partnership that we have, and the service that they've provided with us. The growth that we're experiencing year after year after year after year is highly based upon the quality of education that we have in this community, and we're all proud of that. And I'm really proud of MTSU. And Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to support the $200,000 this year and forward it on to the Budget Committee.
For this year only.
I think that's all we can do. With an understanding that it'll be something that we'll look at every year till we get up to the $1 million. It's just as Commissioner Jordan said a minute ago. It's not something that we can have a crystal ball and look out there and see. But I know that building permits are up this year over last year, and so there may be a little bit more money in that building fund than we think that there may be. So my motion would be to approve $200,000 for this fiscal year.
I need a second, and we can discuss if we get a second here to Commissioner Phillips' motion.
I second.
Mr. Soriano, thank you. Discussion. Read the motion again, just make sure we're clear on what we're going to discuss here, if we are going to discuss it.
Support $200,000 to MTSU for the science building this fiscal year and forward to the Budget Committee with the understanding that this will be looked at every year until the county gets to the $1 million.
Discussion, questions?
Well, I'm still frustrated by the Motlow thing with the city of Murfreesboro, but I'm not going to tie my vote to this to what the city of Murfreesboro does. In a way, I want to say this. I brought that up at this committee at that point in time, and but that's their business. If they don't want to do the right thing, that's their problem. But I feel like being a budget committee member, and we're having discussion every month already, 3 months into the year, about where to find money for this, where to find money for that. I'm just $200,000 a year is the best case scenario, and I don't think we're in a position this year to do the best case scenario. Hopefully next year we will be, in the next 3 or 4 after that, but or the next 3 after that. But I think I could probably support 100, and I think we can scrape that up and still get through. But we've got the sheriff coming up every month with another problem, and it's not his fault. You know, it's just and different things. We got everything from water tanks to water heaters to brick falling off buildings and staffing problems and all. So
Cafeterias.
I suspect
cafeterias.
Yeah, cafeteria. Well, I respect Commissioner Phillips immensely. I'm going to vote no on his motion because I'm going to support a lesser number.
I certainly agree with at least part of what you said, and that is that the city of Murfreesboro. I don't know. I wouldn't tie my vote either to a nicer. Well, no. Not as nice a way to say it, although you almost said it. Just because they do the wrong thing doesn't mean we have to do the wrong thing.
That's correct.
Right.
And I think they were wrong, clearly. But to be fair, Commissioner Allen, had we voted after they did, who's to say whether we would have voted in favor of Motlow or not? We don't know, do we? I would have. I would have voted.
I think our vote wouldn't have changed.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
I think it would not have
Would
changed.
not have changed.
Would not have changed. And I agree with you. I think that's right. But we don't know, you know. So, but I do think we did the right thing. Are there other comments? We do have a motion, and we have a second.
I mean, I'm still worried about where we're gonna come up with the $1 million to replace the $1 million that we gave the sheriff to buy a building. We borrowed the money for the Joey Jackson improvement and then gave it to the sheriff for a building. So there's still $1 million out there that we've already borrowed once that we don't have anymore. So I just feel like we've got too many obligations already outstanding.
Understand.
We are, well, I mean, it's going to go to budget regardless of the amount. And also, Budget Committee will make a decision as to where to get whatever money that we decide, that they decide to appropriate if they affirm what we do. And I'm satisfied with that, but the committee may not be.
Can I offer an amendment to change the number to 100,000 for this year?
Absolutely.
I will offer that amendment.
Second.
Okay, we have an amendment and a second to alter the amount to 100,000 for this budget year, all right? Discussion on the amendment?
About next year would be 100 also.
Next year is a whole new ballgame. We'll discuss every year.
Next year. This is just applies to 1 year. I can assume you're ready to vote on the amendment then? Is that correct? We'll call the roll.
Okay. Commissioner Allen?
No.
Commissioner Cook?
No.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Wait a minute, this is on the 100, isn't it?
Yes.
This is on the 100. Yes, on the 100. I'm sorry. I got confused there.
Commissioner Phillips?
No.
Commissioner Sereno?
No.
Commissioner Turner?
No.
Commissioner Jordan?
No. So we're back to the original motion, I believe.
200.
What was it?
200.
Your original motion is.
I mean, what was the vote? 5 to 2?
5 to
Is that right?
2.
Okay. So the original motion is 200,000, which would also be immediately and for 1 year. 1 year. And before we vote, just for your, we had a long discussion recently, and a very appropriate one, on how long we can commit a future, and it also includes committees, because the committee changes every year, and then there's, it's pointed out, the election in 2 years, commissioners will likely change, I guess. I don't know, but possibly. So this is for 1 year only.
We understand, we understand, we recognize that that's, if you get that, most times municipalities and governments can't contribute, can't obligate future committees. So we're fully prepared to revisit this each year.
Any further discussion? Anybody want the amendment, the motion read again? Call roll. Ms. Shelton, if you would.
Commissioner Allen?
No.
Commissioner Cook?
No.
Commissioner Jordan?
No.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
No.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
4 no, 3 yes.
Okay,
Doesn't go to the Budget Committee, correct?
that's correct.
Can I make a motion to support $100,000 this year?
Second.
Same motion except for $100,000.
Your original motion?
He's making a new motion, because we've already voted. So, I assume the same motion, $100,000.
Can I do that?
Well, yes, sir.
Okay.
Mayor, what's your thought?
I don't know, just think of the 100,000 amendment failed.
That wasn't a motion, that
was
was.
not a motion, that was an
He can
amendment
make,
to his
in my
original
opinion, he
motion.
can make that motion.
I believe he can.
He can.
Okay, the motion has been made for $100,000 for this budget year, and I need a second to that.
She did it, she said.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Cook seconded that. Okay, again, doing it the proper way, which we probably don't need to do necessarily right now, but for discussion. Any comment, questions, discussion?
I'm still gonna vote no for that, Mr. Chairman, just because the number that keeps sticking out that Ms. Nolan had mentioned, and I wanna make sure this is right, so I'm not speaking out of turn here. we're already spending 3.8 million above what we take in anyways, correct? Isn't that what you just said? That just doesn't, I have a concern with that, Mr. Chairman, and I know everyone on this committee remembers last year at the school board when we already had a huge discussion about what this specific committee is going to be facing at the end of the year in the discussion on tax increase anyways. And so this commissioner himself is going to be very concerned the remaining portion of the year. I'm sure every project, with all due respect to Mr. Bales, has its value. But I too have received emails and communications from my constituents that are concerned about how am I going to vote for this and then tell the sheriff we don't have enough money for you to have extra jailers, or issues at the sheriff's department. And I'm not prepared to vote on any money for the building, at least at this time. If not, I hate to speak for the future, but I hate to base my vote on what, with all due respect to the mayor, what revenue we think we might have coming in, but we don't know yet. As much as it could change for the good, it could certainly change for the bad, and obviously we don't want to do that. We're in tough enough times as it is. So this commissioner is going to vote no on this as well for just those reasons alone.
Well, and just a footnote to that, we continue to have, every month, we were surprised about unfunded mandates that seem to come down from the state, things that we weren't expecting. And that's a lot of what passed through from the school board's budget
stuff
as well. So
I think if I remember right, I think $5.5 to $6 million of what came through just for the education budget was stuff that had to be funded by this committee, with this committee and this commission, that is unacceptable. But that's the hand we've been dealt, and at least in this, I can have some control on what I do spend my constituents and the Rutherford County taxpayers' money on, and I'm going to vote no.
Other comments? Thank you, Commissioner Turner.
Well, we did give $100,000 to Motlow this year, and we're set to do it again next year, I believe, or was it last year and this year? However it is.
Last year
And this year, okay. This is
where I was
somewhat
coming
of an equitable situation. Both schools do tremendous things for the county. We're the Health and Education Committee. The school system's been working hand in hand with MTSU for decades and decades, as training students and teachers and things like that. And I think we can scrape it up and do $100,000. Why I'd like to support more. Maybe next year I can support more, but this year I think we can. If we can find it for Motlow, we can find it for MTSU, in my opinion.
Further comments from anyone? Anybody want the motion read? Are we in good shape there? Call the roll, Michelle, if you would, please.
Commissioner Allen?
no.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
No.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
5 to 2.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it very much.
Appreciate you coming up
Thank you for your time.
twice.
We certainly recognize your concerns.
And we appreciate that, and I know you do, and I think you recognize how much we value MTSU, or at least I
We did. We
I
have
hope you
a
do.
wonderful relationship for a long time.
All right. Thank you.
All right, committee, the ever popular new business, is there any? Last call. We are adjourned. Thank you so much.